Well, hello and welcome to this webinar, Understanding NBS, aiming to provide a high-level introduction to NBS platforms. My name is Paul Swaddle. I'm Head of Technical Solutions at NBS, and I help customers to implement NBS platforms, often as part of their BIM processes, and work with a range of organisations to do that. A couple of bits of housekeeping. I'll aim to complete this webinar in around 40 minutes. And for the purposes of keeping that information flowing, there's a lot to cover. Attendees' microphones are muted, but you can ask questions using the chat function or question panels on your screen, and we'll follow those up after the session. So there's a couple of reasons for putting together this particular webinar. The first is that I think it's a good companion piece to a webinar from a couple of weeks ago, hosted by our Innovation Director, Dr. Stephen Hamill, and one of our technical content team leads, Sally Ann Barmer, that provide a bit of a review of 2020, some of the releases, particularly around NBS Course, and some of the development that's been done both on the technology and the content side of NBS. But I thought it would be worthwhile taking a step back to look at NBS more comprehensively, and as a result of a lot more course usage, particularly in terms of organisations working from home, some users are brand new to NBS, and particularly if you're a graduate or a student, you may need a bit of an overview of NBS, whilst others have literally followed NBS and been with us since its genesis in around 1973, and we have organisations who have spec writers as part of them who've been following our development all the way through that process. And so I thought it would be a good opportunity to provide some background on NBS, but also look to the future and what we're able to achieve now thanks to developments in our cloud-based technologies. And rather than lots and lots of PowerPoint slides, I thought it would be useful to look at the NBS website, so the nbs.com. And if we go straight into the website, I can show you areas that you may not be aware of. And I'll also provide a couple of product demos of NBS Course, NBS Source, and some of our plugins that are available as well. So on the front page of the nbs.com, there's this diagram that shows the two audiences of NBS. On the left-hand side, we have users who are specification writers, often architects, engineers, landscape architects, designers, contractors, surveyors. And they are using our cloud-based specification platforms to write specifications, to capture decisions that are being made, refer off to guidance and technical standards, and to record those decisions and communicate them with other members of project teams across the construction industry, all as part of that kind of audit trail as they publish those specifications. On the right-hand side, we've then got construction product manufacturers. So if you've ever had to source literature or product information or object data, you'll know how complex that can be. And so NBS help manufacturers with developing their information and showing their products in a structured and useful way so that specifiers can find those products and substitute the information within the clauses for product information. And that symbiosis is so much at the heart of what NBS is trying to achieve. And it's also about that industry focus aiming towards the golden thread of information. So recording, approving, and communicating a digital decision that's being made about performance of the specification and product information to respond to those performance requirements. And there's so much information that can be provided using NBS tools. So if we click on About here, we've got an About NBS page available. And I know that Stephen provided access to a slide that showed the journey that NBS has taken from paper to cloud. And the roots of NBS remain in specification, and the National Building Specification is what NBS stood for. But it's really now about connecting data in the cloud using new technologies to achieve that. And so we've got a number of teams, from development teams to content authors, customer-facing teams, and a huge amount of support and foundational teams working all together to achieve these new platforms for NBS as part of an aim towards our vision and mission, the idea to be an information platform for the global construction industry, and also to use the power of all that connected data to enable a safer, more efficient and higher quality industry outcome across the construction industry. So along this page you'll see the values that contribute so much to that: curiosity, ambition, working collaboratively, showing integrity, and also ownership across all of the tasks and deliverables that we're creating as part of NBS. We're based in Newcastle upon Tyne at the old post office, but clearly, as you can imagine at the moment, very virtually. Everyone's working from home, but we also have a global reach. We've got a team in Australia and a team in Canada, and if you're accessing the website from those locations, you'll be offered to contact those teams as well. And I've also got a couple of slides here that show how NBS usage takes place across the world during a day. So typical usage from one of our NBS platforms here, that you can see a huge amount of users in the UK and in Europe, but also in North America, South America, Africa, and across the world. And then as the day moves on and the Australian offices begin to open up, North America, there's still workers still going on in London and Cairo there, but you can see how this evolves across a day as NBS is used globally. Also, you'll see that there's a panel marked resources, and if you click on knowledge, you can see all of the information that NBS provides in terms of articles, webinars, updates to information. First thing is that if you click on this button here, you can sign up to the newsletter, and we'll receive updates when there is new articles and information provided by NBS and our authors. But there's a huge amount of information archived within the site, whether it's about the plan of work, whether it's about the draft building safety bill, customer success stories, as you can see here, contract information. And I know that Stephen mentioned the Construction Leaders Summit, a really successful event that NBS held earlier in the year. But if you haven't caught up with presentations from that yet, then these types of summary articles are provided to capture a lot of the information that was shared within that event. And also within the knowledge articles too, you can filter this information to find articles that are of relevance to what you're particularly looking for. For example, every year we produce the NBS BIM report, and the BIM survey this year has a summary article associated with it, and that provides a bit of a state of the nation report on BIM adoption within the UK, and lots of contributions from external parties as well about that. You'll also notice here that we've got Uniclass updates. For those of you who weren't aware, that NBS are responsible for the development of Uniclass 2015, and that classification is recommended in ISO 19650. The National Annex for the UK uses Uniclass 2015 for those BIM processes, and NBS Course supports Uniclass 2015 as well, and has been built to support many classification structures. But a lot of time and effort goes into Uniclass 2015 and to developing those tables. So a huge amount of information can be classified using Uniclass 2015. For example, here if I search for water, you can see that the types of activities include hot water systems, but also water management activities, marine activities, and even water polo. So all of the aspects of the construction industry and any activities or systems that are required can be covered using Uniclass. And again, an example from radio frequency location surveying all the way through to radioactive waste management. So across the board, in all sectors across the built environment, Uniclass 2015 is a really useful tool for doing that. They're always looking for feedback, so if you do have systems, activities that you don't see a home for in Uniclass 2015, do contact the team, and that is an evolving classification that continues to grow and develop to really respond directly to industry feedback and new sectors as we develop it. On the Events tab, here you can see access to webinars like this one and all of the archive of webinars that we've provided. Since March, as a result of everybody working from home, we've provided a huge series of webinars, lots of information, and not just webinars like this one, but also panels discussing industry change, and also masterclasses. So in this case, one about NBS Course Masters, a piece of functionality that can be really useful. Do access those and register for those webinars. And if you do want to catch up on any of the others, you can watch them on demand as well. So I thought it would be useful to move into the platforms and take you through some of the key features and aspects of what we do. Clearly, NBS Course development has been as a result of that kind of digital transformation that we're seeing wider across the industry. There's ever more digital ways of working, and we had to move NBS towards the cloud as part of BIM processes to make it more collaborative, to provide updates to the content, and also in terms of security and permissions and how people want to access their data. So NBS Course is now fully cloud-based, and we've got security credentials to help you through any of those queries. And as I mentioned, the ability to support both Uniclass 2015 and Core's work sections. And also model integration, so the ability to integrate Chorus with model platforms as well. So I'll take you through some of that too. And one of the core reasons for a webinar like this, and also for many of you attending, I'm sure, is the fact that we've recently announced that our desktop products, Create, NBS Building, Landscape, Scheduler and Domestic, will be retired, and that we're retiring support for those over 2021. So that ideally all new projects now should be started in NBS Chorus, and we're providing new content, new features to support that transition across to NBS Chorus. And that access will be ending for Create, Building and Landscape in June, and then later in the year for Scheduler. And so part of the process of this webinar and for a lot of the information that we provide is to help you to transition across to NBS Chorus. And it's not something to worry about. We'll support you through that process and get you up to speed with the new platforms. And so with that in mind, I thought I'd show you NBS Chorus, a few of the key features. Clearly, there's some fantastic webinars and onboarding and training tools to really show you NBS Chorus in depth. And this is very much just meant to be a high-level overview of some of the key features. But hopefully, if you haven't seen NBS Chorus yet, it gives you a feel for some of the content that's available here. So first of all, NBS Chorus is browser-based, it's cloud-based, so I'm using Chrome to run it here. And then it just means that you always have access to your specifications and your projects on the go, wherever you're working and whatever device you happen to be using. You're also signed in as part of an organization, so this would have your company name. And as a result, you can then have organizational management tools showing who has access to the platform, showing the projects that are part of your organization, and controlling who has access to what parts of the specifications. And all of it is project-based. So you can see here what we call the project dashboard. And this indicates all of the projects that either I've created or that I've been invited to collaborate on. And within a particular project, you can then have multiple specifications within there. So they could be split up by sectors, by discipline, and by the entities within the project, preliminaries and architectural spec, whatever the structure is that you want. Previously, in our desktop products, it may have been difficult to split out the specification, certainly into packages, and also to represent the way that your office prefers to work, and to try and bundle the entirety of a project into one specification. Now that's not the case. You can divide up the specifications as you wish, and provide these with different titles and different structures as required on your project. Also, as mentioned by Stephen, we've got the ability to provide invites to this project and to really control the permissions around who has access to a particular project, so that you can type in email addresses and provide different levels of access to that user, whether they're providing just read-only access or making them a contributor to be able to edit the specifications, and then to really drill down to the exact level that you want somebody to have access to. And especially as you begin to think about packaging and splitting up the specification, that allows you a huge amount of control over who has access to edit and change the specification information. Within the specifications themselves, we've then got the ability to support multiple content sets. So within a new specification, we can then choose the content sets depending on the level of access that you have to NBS Chorus. You'll see a different list as part of this content set. But here you can see Uniclass 2015 work sections and supporting preliminaries, and the same for cores. So the common arrangement of work sections content is available within NBS Chorus. And previously, I think Stephen had shown the building and landscape import in our testing site, a development site. But that's now live, so this is live Chorus that I'm showing you, and the ability to import existing NBS building and landscape files. And that's been true of NBS Create content for a while, so you can also import NBS Create files too. So a huge amount of opportunity to import your existing specifications, existing office data, and get up to speed with NBS Chorus as quickly as possible. Also, as mentioned, we've got global content. So Australia is adopting Uniclass 2015 really successfully, and in Canada, the kind of traditional 6-digit format in both NMS and CMS form. But that really indicates the potential of NBS Chorus to support multiple classifications, and it's been built to support that way of working, so that depending on the project that you're working on and depending what access you have, you can choose the relevant content that's appropriate to your particular project. Within the content sets themselves, it's exactly as you would expect. So we've got existing Uniclass 2015 content available to you, and the ability to work through system outlines and define the content that you want to add to the particular systems that you're working on. So from performance content, whether it's structural, fire, thermal, acoustic performance, the products that make up the particular aspects of the project that you're working to, and also the execution requirements, so workmanship, any of the installation requirements that might be necessary for a particular system can all be specified within these clauses, and then that creates linkages to add those clauses to your job and develop the content of the specification as you progress. Alternatively, we've got cause-based specification content as well. So if I show you some of that here, as you would anticipate, the K10s and F10s available to you, and that structure is slightly different. So in a traditional cause section, you have access to all of the clauses, and it's a case of parking the things that aren't relevant to your project. But then within those clauses, all of the benefits are there in terms of access to product information, all of the technical guidance that's associated with those sections, and the ability to make choices relevant to your project and specific to those. So one's quite an additive approach, one's quite a deletive approach, but we appreciate that organizations work in different ways, and we were keen to support a transition across from NBS Building and Landscape to help people to work in the way that they're most comfortable with. And within the projects across NBS Chorus, you may have a need for a number of different approaches, and depending on the project, depending on the clients and the contractors that you might be working with. But the core principle of having standard clause structures that develop information and allow you to work through that content in multiple different ways to access the guidance from NBS and develop that information still rings true in Chorus as well. And in terms of being able to reuse information, so access to the information within NBS can be then copied across to other specifications, whether it's the whole of a particular spec that's been used on a previous project, and particularly that might be relevant around things like preliminaries, to be able to copy those across to another project. Also, you can do that at a bit more of a granular level. So if you are choosing particular things from your specification, you've got the opportunity to copy those across to an alternative project. But also the opportunity to create masters. And so you can imagine for some content you'll be reusing on a regular basis, whether that's brickwork, paintwork, ductwork, preliminary content that actually tends to be reused quite regularly from project to project, and the ability to create folders that have those masters within them, and to build up your own specifications that can be reused in different ways. So lots of opportunity to reuse content as well across NBS Chorus. So in here we've got a fire detection system, and within here the guidance you can see on the right hand side is always visible to help you make design decisions and specification decisions as you're working. And if I click on a standard, it'll take you to the publication index for all of the standards that we use and external documents across NBS. You can see that that's the latest version of that document. You can also view older versions to see what's changed over the years in terms of those particular standards that are referenced. And if you click on this link to download it from SIS and you're logged in and you have an access to the Construction Information Service, this is a joint venture between IHS Markit and NBS, and we provide access to a number of the standards that are referenced across NBS Chorus and the content that you'll find within there. So a really useful way of providing access to those standards and having visibility of some of the information that's available within the NBS Chorus content. Couple of remaining things in terms of being able to publish this information. So lots of different ways to approach that. And I know that the previous webinar did look at style sheets and some of the publication options, so do check that out if you haven't already. But also to mention integration with things like common data environments. So if you have submittals mentioned in your content, they can be exported as tasks and deliverables to things like BIM 360, Format and Viewpoint. The final thing in terms of NBS Chorus, I think, is to indicate that there's a huge amount of help and support available. So as you are working through NBS Chorus, wanting some more information, there's support and knowledge base articles to help you through. You can take e-learning modules that are available to you with an NBS Chorus subscription to learn how to use NBS Chorus. And any support that you need, you can submit tickets directly within the platform, but also the ability to suggest features. So when you think of something that would be really useful within NBS Chorus, you can suggest that to our ideas forum, and those ideas can be upvoted by other users to really inform the development of NBS Chorus going forward. And you can sign up to a newsletter to see what features, like the building and landscape import, are being introduced all the time into the platform. So along with that training and support, there's training available through our NBS training teams. And if you go to the support part of the NBS.com, you can read more about our training team, and clearly we're delivering our training sessions online at the moment. That includes an onboarding session many of you may have had with our onboarding specialist, John Knox, and great training webinars, great abilities to train large groups of your organization. So if you do have training needs, do get in touch and let us know about those, and we'll help and support wherever we can. If you're not an existing NBS Chorus user, do contact us, and you've got the ability to book a demo through the website, and also to find out more about some of the plans and purchasing options. The next thing to show you is some of the integrations available with NBS Chorus. One of the key aspects of the power of the platform is in the integrations. So here we've got Revit open, and within the Revit platform, we can now run NBS Chorus within that interface. So this isn't like a separate plugin that's showing a read-only version of NBS Chorus and the specifications that you're working on. It's exactly as we saw in the browser view, but the ability to actually begin associating and linking the information between our model information and what's in our specifications. So if, for example, I've got annotations and linkages, I can make those across the specification content, and that's for all sectors and disciplines. So the ability to make associations to particular elements across the project at detail level, when we get down to specific products that might be used within particular aspects. And that's true of Uniclass content and our course content as well, that you can make associations. So here, for example, I've got a wood door that I want to create an annotation to a specific part of my project. And so I'm going to go here to my spec that has the relevant door sets within it. And here within the NBS Course panel for our model integration, there's an additional tab for model information. And you can see here all of the, in this case in family category name order, all of the components that appear in your object model, and start associating those with parts of the specification. So I can go into the contents and highlight the object that I want to associate, and then create that association with my model. In this example, I'm using the cause content, and you can see here that I've got an existing product clause that I want to associate with this particular part of the object information. And when I click associate now, the content will update not only in the specification to show that an association's been made, so that you're beginning that work of integrating that kind of digital audit trail, so that those working in the specification have awareness of what's happening in the model information. But also we can then actually begin to work through the specification data that's relevant to that particular clause. So those who maybe have traditionally been spec writers may not have had much information in terms of model contribution, and vice versa. Those who have worked and tended to make design decisions in the model may not be aware of what's happening in the specification. So with the right permissions, with the right access, and the ability to edit and read the specification content and have a much greater understanding of some of the performance or structural properties of some of the decisions that are being made. But also this annotation is then relevant to the particular content that you're looking for. So this can be used to cross-reference, to annotate, to associate information. And we're doing that because the actual information is embedded within the type clause and the type properties of this particular object, so that the parameters are updated, and the course code and the course title. And that would be true of Uniclass information as well, but you can imagine that that's really useful. And then we can begin to keep that information up to date. So for that purpose, I'll show you ArchiCAD. So ArchiCAD working in exactly the same way for a particular object. And you can notice here that we can change the content of this, so the prefix and suffix, for example, new information that we were adding as we begin to work through here. One of the key benefits of the Model tab is the ability to keep these associations up to date. So where the parameters no longer match, we've got the ability to update these. So if you watch this annotation here, I can keep that up to date with changes in my specification and keep those annotations true wherever they appear in drawn information, plans, sections, details, and schedules as well. So real opportunity to have access to the specification and all the information within a particular job, to keep that information up to date, all working within the model interface rather than having to be in a separate desktop product or to work on a separate screen. All of it can be managed and navigated within the NBS Course panel here in ArchiCAD. And that's equally true in Vectorworks. So for those users who are more familiar with styles and classes within Vectorworks, it works in exactly the same way. So here we've got the same situation of wanting to associate our particular door set that we've put into the model, and again the ability to associate. So here's our list of items within this particular view, and the ability to associate content for the door set and to associate that with the model, and again choose the relevant door item that would be needed there, and to associate that with part of the specification. And that becomes a tool for navigating as well, so that as items begin to be associated, the NBS Course panel will then update to just show the relevant clause as you're working through here. You've still got access to all of the guidance information, products and notes as relevant there to these particular aspects of the content. So another aspect of that is being able to work directly with the model integration vendors, and that's true of other partners as well. So we're working with these particular CAD vendors with the model integration, the common data environment vendors, and developing those reports, and that means that we're getting to contribute to the development of those platforms, to understand how users are operating and developing that information using those particular tools, and we'll continue to develop integrations as we work with additional partners. That's true too of our source platform. So if I search here for aggregate blocks, you may have used NBS product information before through NBS Plus, through the National BIM Library, or accessed CPD from manufacturers. But similarly to Chorus, we're now using a cloud-based platform to bring all of that information into one place. And that allows a couple of things to take place. One is that we can begin to really filter this information. So you can pick manufacturers that you want. You can pick the ones that have kite marks available. You can see different aspects of the properties within there. You can also compare information from particular manufacturers and compare products side by side. And that way, seeing that information in terms of what's available, the options, the differences between those products, particularly around performance criteria and often things like environmental properties. And we're working with manufacturers to really embed that level of content across new product information. So in a similar way to NBS Course development, working with those manufacturers and helping them to develop their content. And a huge amount of manufacturers already available within the platform, but that continues to grow and to develop. And we work obviously with them to help them to keep that information really well structured so that it becomes easier for you to access that information and use it within your in clauses in your specification. The last couple of things to show you were in terms of case studies. So we have a great new recent case study from Hollis about specifically how training was really useful for them in terms of getting up to speed with NBS Chorus and working with that organization. And we're always open to hearing from you about your own successes with NBS. So if you do want to get in touch and develop a case study with us, that would be brilliant, and we'd be really open to doing that with you. Also, if you're looking for further information, we've got a newsroom here with recent press releases across NBS, and you might have noticed two pieces of information recently in the news about NBS. The first is that back in November we acquired SCL Schumann, a wealth of knowledge and some great team of consultants in Australia to develop the Australian business with NBS there. And then also the recent news that NBS has joined the Big Factor Group. So bright future ahead for NBS. A wealth of experience and investment funding. NBS is delighted to be part of the Big Factor family, and it really helps us towards that continuous improvement in 2021. And finally, a couple of calls to action, whether you're an existing user of NBS. If you are, then do make the most of that subscription. There's account management support, there's all that training that I mentioned available, including our online support and knowledge and resources. There's also NBS events like the Construction Leaders Summit that are happening regularly, and we're announcing some new ones in 2021. So do sign up to the newsletter to hear about those. And also, if you want to take part in a case study, that would be really great. So we're always keen to hear from you about those. And if you're not an existing NBS user, then please do get in touch. Visit the nbs.com/events to see upcoming webinars. And if you've got any questions or queries about the products and services, do contact us on the information below, and that way we can get back to you and answer those queries. Last thing I'm going to do is to show you the NBS in 60 seconds video. I hope this has been a really useful guide and overview to NBS and our products and services. And I look forward to speaking with more of you in 2021. Thank you.
The future of construction is digital. Data is transforming our lives, our work, and the way we create. This is just the beginning. In a world powered by information, how will you deliver better? NBS is the connected information platform that powers construction. Our mission is to use technology to make the built environment more effective for everyone, giving architects, designers, and engineers the power to specify their projects effortlessly, making sure no details are left to chance. And for manufacturers, NBS is a digital route to market, enabling their products to be selected and providing invaluable insights. Construction is evolving fast. Get ready to digitize and embrace the future together. NBS.